Hey, my name's Ron Ray, and I'm a financial advisor here in the area. If you're not familiar with our firm, Turning 65 Solutions, we're just right down the street in New Braunfels, and then we've got another office right on Stone Oak, just right off of 1604 there. And that back there, I'm going to let him talk in just a minute. Some of you may know that guy back there, Tarrell Jones. He works with us, and here to get started and talk about Medicare tonight. Tell you a little bit about myself before we get started. It's going to get loud, it sounds like. Now, I've been speaking for a living for 20 years, so I'm pretty good at it volume-wise. But if you can't hear me or something, just tell me to speak up, raise your hand, I'll repeat something. This is me. Tell you a little bit about me before we get started. I've been in the financial services business, perfect timing, for about 15 years now. This is my second career. Before that, I was a police officer for about 23 years. Just retired from the reserves about almost 3 years ago. Worked, full-time for 12 or 13 years as a police officer, an academy instructor, academy commander when I left. And one day decided I wanted to get married and start a family and not have to wear a bulletproof vest to work every day. So I got out of that and found insurance and financial services, and this is what I do now. And since I've been in this business, I pretty much only work with people like you who are turning 65, going into Medicare, getting ready to retire, or recently retired. And a couple of years ago, I started seeing that we were just through the natural course of our business. Of course, we live in a target-rich environment here in San Antonio, right? Military City, USA. We started working with a lot of veterans. And the veterans have certain kind of unique situations depending on if you're retired, or you have VA disability, or you have CHAMP VA, or whatever. And when it comes to Medicare, you need sometimes some different advice than just the regular civilian world does. So last year I opened a special division of my company called the Veterans Services and Advocacy Division. So we really just focus on veterans and dependents of veterans, whoever needs that special situation. Now I'll bring Tarrell up real quick, talk about himself I'm not going to give him too long because he'll take over.
I'm a natural speaker. Well, hey y'all, my name is Tarrell Jones. I did 22 years in the Army as a medic. I'm from Baltimore. I ain't from Texas, but I enjoy the benefits that I get being a retiree, being here. Definitely like being here. And this is my home right here. What I mean by this is my home, this is my VFW. 4676. There was some other VFWs to pick, but I like the energy in here a lot better. Ron, Rhonda, thanks for being able to help me out host this. What else to say on here? Oh, from Baltimore. I'm a Ravens fan. I'm glad Lamar got that contract fixed. Somebody got to represent the AFC. So this stuff on here, you guys can read this stuff right here, but me as a regular dude, I'm a family man, I'm a Christian dude. My son's, start with the wife first. The wife, we're married to her, year number 13 is coming up in July. My son, 17 years old, he's a junior right now, and he go to Steele High School. And for me, 22 years in the Army as a medic, retired, I ain't running fast, I ain't jumping high. If it hurts, I don't want to do it. Why? I believe in self-preservation. Because I've learned from listening to stories from the more experienced people. They was like, hey, if I didn't do this, I'm that wisdom. I'm not doing those things that you said don't do. I'm not going to do them. But something that I do really enjoy is being around people and being able to help them out. Like I said, I'm not doing my medical stuff no more, but to be able to be in a position to use my medical background to help people get a better understanding and getting a better understanding for myself about what it is for Medicare. Because my mom, she lives with me, and she has Medicare. I didn't give her plan. Somebody else did. It's a fantastic plan, and I'm glad that she got it. But when I sat down with them and I heard the kind of things they were talking about, I was like, yeah, this is something I probably need to hop on. Why? Because I want to cater to vets. I'm a vet. We speak the same language. It ain't about being sad. It ain't about being offensive. It's about learning the truth. There's some myths out there that I know y'all heard about Medicare. We're going to help dispel it. Again, my name is Tarrell Jones. I'm a Curry. Is anybody else here 101st?
Yes.
My dad.
Air Soul Airborne.
Curry. And nobody else? Any rocket signs? Nothing? All right. Well, I'm glad y'all had a chance to participate in whatever y'all did anyway. You got it, Ron.
All right. I was not fortunate enough to serve in the federal service. My legs kept me out of that. But my two grandfathers served Vietnam, World War II. One of them went on to serve in Vietnam after that. My dad was in the Navy, 61 to 66, USS Lexington. And that's just always been something that was close to my heart. And missed out on that, but wore a uniform for a long time, did the best I could. And so now just trying to give back. Cops don't want to hear it. They're out. They don't care about this kind of stuff. They get their insurance from the city. They think it's going to be great. But so who can I talk to and tell my story to is you folks. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm the pretty one, so he lets me do the talking up here. He's the one that is he's gonna walk you down to the bar after a while and, you know, talk you into doing things you shouldn't do. Should do. And so, all right. I got a few jokes as we go along. They're not all funny. So just, you know, hang in there with me. So what we do is we're holistic retirement planners. So we don't just deal with Medicare or health insurance or life insurance. We kind of take those 4 pillars of retirement. Health, which is probably the biggest, costliest, long-term care. So you don't have to, you know, pay your life savings out to a nursing home if you don't have to. Life insurance, so you can, you know, pass along any wealth that you may have accumulated in an appropriate manner. And then retirement income planning, making sure you don't run out of money and you can enjoy the lifestyle that you're used to in retirement. Now today, we're here to talk about Medicare and medical insurance, okay? And this is our mission. We help people live happy, healthy, wealthy lives for the rest of your lives. I'm probably going to stand in your way the whole time, so
It's all
just
good.
if you need to see something, just let me know. We've got a little bit of a hard angle here. All right, now here what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about, because most of you are turning 65, new to Medicare, right? Majority of you? Okay. Today we're going to cover Medicare, Medicare supplements, Medigap, Part D, Medicare Advantage, and how all of these interact with VA healthcare, Champ VA, and TRICARE, because each one of them's got its own little nuances. They're a little bit different, each one of them, and the way they interact with Medicare. Okay? All right, let's get to know you a little bit. What happened in 1958? Long time ago, I decided. What's that? You were born? Yeah, that's a good thing. Those of you that are turned 65, you were born in 1958 probably. Cost of living, this is always fun. A new house, 1958, would have cost you about $12,000. That's not even my tax bill on my house this year. Man, Comal County's killing me. Average annual salary is about $4,600. A new car costs about $2,100. A gallon of gasoline for that car, 24 cents. Shoot. Now that car used real gas, and it used a lot of it probably, but still. The first Pizza Hut opened in Kansas. Elvis Presley went into the Army. Big song was Witch Doctor by David Seville. I'm not sure I'm familiar with that one. Anybody know that one? Can you sing it?
No, I can't sing it, but I know the song.
Ah, gotcha. All right. And some other famous people or notorious people born in 1958 share a birth year with Madonna, Alan Jackson, Michael Jackson, a few others, but there we go. All right. Now, I'm not making any of this stuff up. Most of it comes out of this book right here called Choosing a Medigap Plan. So that's where we get the general Medicare information. Now we also pull information from tricare.mil. Okay, if you just go to TRICARE, TRICARE for Life is what you're going to have when you go on Medicare. All information is right there. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward right there on their front page. Also the VA website, anything about Medicare on the VA website, and then Champ VA is tied to that as well. But I'm not making it all up. It all comes out of this book. Now the information in this book comes from the government, so we know that it can be trusted. Right? That was One of those jokes. Some of you got it, some of you didn't know that. All right. Let's see. Now, got a couple little quick disclaimers. Number one is that in a setting like this where we're providing a meal, the law does not allow us to speak about specific insurance companies or plans or prices. So the only thing we're going to talk about today, in the first part of the program, is just Medicare in general, and what it does for you, what it doesn't do for you, how it interacts with TRICARE, CHAMP VA, and VA, and that's the important part, right? All the other stuff about what plan to get and what's the price, you can figure that out later. I mean, we can help you with that, but we're not going to talk about it today. We're not going to waste your time with a sales pitch. Does that make sense? Okay, we're going to give you the good, hard, actionable information. So just sit back. What we want you to do, what Tarrell wants you to do, is sit back, relax, get to know me, get to know Tarrell, our knowledge, our experience, so that hopefully when the time comes, you will want to do business with us. Is that fair enough? We do have a motive. We do want you to do business with us. But what we want to do is provide that value first, provide that educational value. If you see value in it, if you like us, you like him, you like me, you come and see us when the time comes. That fair? All right. All right. You do have another book in front of you. It looks like this here. This is going to be our guide for the presentation today. Most of the slides that I'm going to put up here on the screen are in this book. There's some of them that aren't. Some new stuff that we added for the veteran-oriented part of it. But, so they're not in that book. But what I'll do is two things. This book, this is a 2022 version. I realize it's 2023. The government will have the 2023 version of this out to us by the end of next month. So that's just how they work. They release the current version in June. So the insurance companies used to print these up and send them to me by the crateful, and at my seminars I could hand everybody a copy, but they don't do that anymore. So the way I get this to you now is I just email it to you. So on your page that you filled out earlier, this one here, if you weren't here, you didn't, there's a space for your email address. Put your email address down there and make a little note off to the side that says send me the Medigap book, and we'll email you a copy of it tomorrow morning. And I will also include a copy of these slides so that you can get the extra veteran-oriented slides that are not in the book. That sound good? Because I don't want you, if you're like me, if I try to take too many notes while somebody's talking, I miss all kinds of stuff. So please feel free to take notes. Those books are yours to keep. Write down any questions you want to ask me later, and we'll get them answered. Okay? Yeah. All right. There should be another page in your book there is for notes, but you can just follow along as we go. All right. This is another page in your book. Frequently asked questions. These are questions you should be asking an agent. So I've already heard it come up in top discussion as I've been eavesdropping on you. You're going to get a lot of mail. You're going to get a lot of phone calls. You already are. People are even going to knock on your door. You'd be out working in your flower bed on a Sunday afternoon and some agent pull up and want to wish you a happy birthday. Well, when that happens, you pull out this page right here and start asking them these questions. And any agent that is ethical and reputable ought to be willing and able to answer these questions. There's no secrets in this business, or at least there shouldn't be.
Is that in the pamphlet?
It should be. It should, as one of the loose leaves. It's not in there?
It's this one. It's this one here on the back.
Oh. Now, if it's not there, my assistant will be fired in the morning, and I'll email that to you too. Can you make a note to remind me to add the FAQ page? Okay. I added a couple of things. She might have pulled that out, not thinking.
It's in there. It's on this page, but it's on the back, so it's
It's a
not.
different form.
That's a little bit different. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So what happens when you turn about 64 and a half? We just talked about it.
Everybody bombards you.
You start getting a lot of mail is the first thing, right? Old-fashioned mail, including me. I sent you my postcard and invited you down here to the post, and I'm glad you're here, right? But you're going to get mail from all kinds of people, right? So what happens when you turn 64 and a half? You pop up on everybody's radar, right? Including me. You're going to get mail from insurance companies, from the government. And watch out, you might get your Medicare card in the mail. Be sure you don't throw that one away. You're going to get mail from Medicare supplement plans, Medicare Advantage plans, prescription drug plans, life insurance companies, annuity companies, funeral homes. They all know you've got your mind on certain things right now, and they all want your business, right? And so you're going to get it. And what'd you say you're getting, ma'am? 5 or 6 pieces of mail a day?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's not going to stop anytime soon. It's
No,
good.
because it's for him.
Yeah.
And when it's my turn, it's going to start again.
Yeah. Yeah. And the closer you get to 65, it's going to peak, and then it's going to start to slowly taper off. And then we're going to get to October, the annual enrollment season, going to start all over again for everybody. That's when you start seeing the TV commercials and everything really get hectic. Yeah, there's some of these companies just kind of keep them going year round. Yeah. Yeah. But that's what happens when you turn 64 and a half. Now, what happens when you turn 65? Well, you're now eligible to enroll in Medicare.
So you can't actually enroll until you turn 65?
No, about 3 months before. We'll talk about that. Yep.
3 months later.
Yep.
3 months.
But you're eligible for Medicare at 65. Now they will let you. That's the next slide. How do you get enrolled? Well, let me back up one second. You're eligible for Medicare at 65, assuming you worked and paid into the system, assuming you qualify, right? And the way you qualify is you have to have worked and paid into the Medicare system for at least 40 quarters. It's 40 quarters. Okay. Now, some people work their whole lives and never pay in. Most common would be school teachers, sometimes policemen, firefighters, some other government employees sometimes don't pay in. Maybe you just worked a job where you never paid those kind of taxes, like you were a homemaker, or you worked overseas for a private foreign firm. But you're not just out of luck. Usually, we can usually still get Medicare for you, either through your spouse's benefits, maybe even an ex-spouse or a deceased spouse. So you're not just out of luck. We have to do a little extra work on the front end. Or maybe you just worked 32 quarters. You didn't quite work enough. Well, the government doesn't expect you to go back to work for 2 years just to get Medicare. They'll let you pay a little extra and get it that way. Okay. So we have to figure that out. But for everybody else, you worked your 40 quarters, you paid into the system, and now it's time to get enrolled. Time to get enrolled is about 3 months before your birthday. They'll let you start that process. Okay? And there's different ways to do it. The first and most common is if you are already on Social Security, meaning you get that paycheck, that Social Security check in your account every month, you are automatically enrolled in Medicare. You don't need to do anything. That's why I say watch your mailbox, because about 2 months before your birthday, that card's going to show up. And it comes in a very plain white envelope, and a lot of people throw it away. They discard it as junk mail. So keep an eye out. About 2 months before your birthday month. Okay? That's if you're already on Social Security. Now, if you're not on Social Security, you've got to enroll yourself. And there's 3 different ways to do that. Number 1, you can drive yourself on down to the Social Security office downtown, or that little one over on Isom Road. That used to be a pretty well-kept secret, and you can just stroll on in there and stroll in and stroll out and not have to wait in line. But well,
It's not on Isom anymore. They moved it.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Where'd they move it to?
It's over on 281, kind of hidden or behind the place.
Further down?
Yeah.
Yeah. Further up? Further north?
No, yeah, it's kind of hidden back behind where, what's the Walmart equivalent of Costco? Where
Sam's.
Sam's Club used
Okay.
to be.
Huh. Interesting. I didn't even know that. But what's going to happen when you get there? You're going to wait in line, right? Take a number, wait in line. And how long is that wait? Yeah, it can be an hour or more, several hours, depending on time of day of the week, what you want to do. And you go in there when you turn 65. You take a number, you wait in line, you get to the front of the line, and what do they tell you? You're in the wrong line. Or they tell you, make an appointment and come back. We don't enroll you in Medicare the first time you show up. You have to have an appointment, right? Now sometimes you get somebody that's nice, they're not in a big hurry, they're not real busy, and they can just do it right then. But most of the time you're going to need an appointment to go down there. And don't think that having an appointment is going to keep you from waiting. It's like going to a doctor's office. You're going to wait. But at least you can get it done, right? Option number 2, call them on the phone. Call the main Social Security switchboard number. That's it right there, 772-1213. And what happens when you do that?
Listen to Maggie music.
Listen to their music. They listen to their music for a little while.
Hours.
Couple hours at least. Yep.
Then when you get through, they'll give you an appointment to get back to you.
Yeah. Right?
Well, you can be lucky and the call drops.
Yeah.
Start over again.
Yeah, there you go. Now they do have this little feature now. It's not new. It's been around a few years where you can punch in your phone number, and when you get to the front of the line, they'll call you back. But you better not walk away from that phone, because they call you back and you miss it, you'll start all over again. We find the optimum time to call is on Friday morning. You call on a Monday, Tuesday, the hold times are longer because everybody's been thinking about it over the weekend. They go, oh, Monday I got to call Social Security. So we call and wait on hold. A Friday morning, usually get through pretty easy. 10, 15 minutes on hold. It's pretty easy. All right. Call them on the phone, you can get enrolled. Option number 3, go online to the Social Security website and enroll yourself. Now, you caught me say something here. We're talking about Medicare, but I keep saying Social Security. And that's because that's what it is. You enroll in Medicare through Social Security. Okay. So you go to Social Security website, create a login if you don't already have one, and you can enroll in Medicare. Folks, that's very easy. It takes they changed the process, so it used to take about 5 minutes, now it takes about 15, because we got to do all this identity verification stuff for the login. But it takes about 15 minutes, and in fact, we help people do that in our office every week. We just sit down at my computer, we punch in your information, and you're done. It's very simple. It takes us 15 minutes, and we're happy to do that for you. And it's kind of hard to mess it up, at least from our standpoint, because we do it all the time. We know what questions to ask you and how to answer all the questions on the application. And you can't even claim your Social Security benefits at the same time. It's all in one application. So if you're thinking about doing that, you can do it all at once instead of 2 different times and figuring it all out. So we're happy to do that for you, with you, and sit down and get it done. Right?
At what age can you claim your Social Security benefits and still be able to continue working?
Well, that's a good question. All right, it depends on when you were born. So you can claim your Social Security benefits at 62, but then you take a permanent age-related reduction, and you can only earn so much. This year it's $21,240. $21,240, and every $2 that you make above that, they hold $1 back. Right?
Is that retirement?
That's retirement. No, that's how much you can earn if you're drawing Social Security early, before full retirement age. Now, full retirement age used to be 65. Now they're stepping it up to 67. So for people born this year, it's born in 58, it's 66 and 8 months. That's your full retirement age. And then the limits go up depending on what year you're in, close to your full retirement age. That's a much harder question to answer in a setting like this. And everybody's got a different answer.
Way too complicated.
Yeah, yeah.
I know I found out one thing. If you do start your Social Security, if you start it toward the end of the year, like you retired in July, August, or whatever, they go on the same standard on the salary cap. So if they say you can only make $20,000 when you started, they're going to penalize you because they're going to tell you you made too much money, even though you worked and then retired and then started. So if you started in the same year that you retired, they're gonna penalize you because you made too much money. They don't take into account what money
The time
when you
frame.
started. They take into account you started, they looked at it, oh, you made
Yep.
$67,000. You in penalty.
Yep.
So you have to be careful.
Yep. That's right.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, it's that decision requires a bit more thought.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. Okay. All right. So moving on. Now, what that does is that gets you Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B. Now, some of you might still be working or have a certain type of government insurance and want to know if you have to have them. We're going to cover that in a little bit, okay? But once you sign up, that's going to get you, whoops, push the wrong button. That's going to get you Medicare Part A and Medicare Part B. Now, Medicare Part A is your hospital insurance. It pays your room and board in the hospital, hospital services. Okay? Now, Medicare Part A, you have already paid for with your payroll deductions all your working life. So there's no further charge for Medicare Part A. You also get Medicare Part B. Now, Medicare Part B is your medical insurance. It pays a portion of your doctor bills, both in the hospital and outside the hospital. So office visits, outpatient stuff, tests, outpatient surgery, anything that happens outside the hospital, including the emergency room, if you're not admitted, is covered under Medicare Part B. Okay.
I got a question on that.
Yes, sir.
If you're already receiving Social Security and they automatically enroll you, are they just gonna enroll you in Part A and B
Yes.
and not all other stuff?
Right. That's
So
correct.
just those two?
Just those two. And if for some reason you don't want Part B because you're working or whatever reason you decide, you can opt out of it. You have to fill out the back of that card and send it back to them and they'll take you out.
But Part A will continue anyway?
Part A will continue anyway. That's correct. Yes. It's kind of automatic because it doesn't cost you anything more. You already paid for it and it will help.
I was wondering if you had to pay
Yes.
for that Part A also.
Now, there are a few people that have to pay for Part A, like the ones I mentioned before, don't quite have 40 quarters. So they don't get Part A for free. They have to pay a little bit more to get it.
So Part B, if you opt out of Part B and then you need it later, then are you going to pay?
Yep, you're going to pay a penalty. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But for a little while, I'm going to assume that everybody got A and B. Okay? And then when we get to the different sections, I'll tell you whether you have to have B or not, depending on what other kind of coverage that you have. Okay? And it's important because if you don't get Medicare Part B, just go ahead and cover it right now. If you don't get Medicare Part B and you don't have what they call creditable coverage from an employer plan due to your own or your spouse's current employment, then later on you will pay a penalty for Part B when you do enroll. And that penalty's stiff. It's 10% for every year that you were out. So if you stay out for 10 years and you didn't have creditable coverage that whole time, you're going to pay 100% more for your Medicare Part B. So it's very, very important that we make a well-educated decision here. Plus, whatever other plan that you have probably is not going to cover those medical bills because those other plans work secondary to Medicare. We'll cover that. I don't want to confuse you yet, though. All right, so that's what you get, A and B. Now, Medicare Part B, you've not yet paid for. So now they're going to bill you currently $164.90 a month. Okay. Now, if you're already on Social Security, they're just going to hold that amount right out of your check. If you're not on Social Security, they're going to send you a bill in the mail. And that bill is usually for 3 months at a time. I say usually because when you're first starting, depending on the timing, it can be for 4 or 5 months. But generally, it's for 3 months at a time. It's a quarterly bill. Okay. Now, once you get that bill, there's a phone number on the back. You can call Medicare, and they'll help you set that up on an automatic monthly payment so that you can just pay it once a month automatically. Yes?
Is that because of Obamacare?
No, sir. It's always been like that. Nope.
They take our TRICARE payment X amount of times during the year.
Yes.
Does that stop?
It does. And I'm going to cover that.
My retirement check?
Yes.
But I will pay $164.90
Yes.
a month through my
Cor-
Social Security check.
Correct. Yeah. If you're on TRICARE,
Paying.
right? So TRICARE is for military retirees and their dependents, right? Or their spouses at least. When you, up until you're on Medicare, you're on either TRICARE Prime or TRICARE Select, and you're paying a premium for it, monthly or quarterly, whatever it is. When you turn 65, you transition from Prime or Select to what's called TRICARE for Life. Okay? There's no premium for TRICARE for Life, but you do have to have Medicare Part B. You have to have it. I don't care what anybody tells you. If you don't believe me, go to the TRICARE.mil website. It's right there, about 3 lines down.
I got a question.
Yes.
I'm 100% disabled, so I get all my medical.
Yeah. We're going to, but you're not on TRICARE?
No.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about you in a minute. Yeah. So remember, we got 3 groups. 3 groups in here. Really 4 groups, but mostly 3. TRICARE, VA Health, and Champ VA.
I have one more. Retiree healthcare.
From,
Retired from San Antonio PD.
okay,
We have a healthcare.
right. Yep. That's a little bit outside of the scope of this discussion, but
Well, I didn't know how that fits into
yeah,
this.
we'll talk about that offline. Yep.
Well, I got a question.
Yes.
The 164 that you're saying, that's standard for everybody? Because that's
No.
not what I heard.
No. That is the standard premium
Based on,
based on just that standard premium. If your income is very, very low,
okay,
very low, you can qualify for Medicaid, and the state of Texas will pay that on your behalf, so you don't pay it. But it's still there. Somebody's paying it for you. If your income's very high, you can pay more. Okay, and so for a married couple, the first bracket on that increase starts at $195,000, right? And half of that for an individual. And it's based on your tax return 2 years ago. Okay, that's called IRMA. In this case, IRMA is not a very nice lady. Okay, and you're going to get that, first you're going to get the bill for $164.90, and then about a month later you're going to get that IRMA letter, and you're going to be calling me, hey Ron, how come they want me to pay $500 for my Medicare now? So because you're a very high earner.
Will that stand forever? Or will
No,
that something
no,
else?
it will not. And so they're looking at your income from your tax return. It's called not your AGI, your MAGI, your modified adjusted gross income from 2 years ago, and they're always looking 2 years back. So it's a slot. So a lot of people get surprised. They go, well, I just a regular, working couple. We made, I don't know, $60,000 a year for 30 years. But guess what? You cashed out a 401k to pay off your house, and your financial advisor didn't give you very good advice on the Medicare part. So now 2 years later, boom, IRMA comes calling.
So you're talking about income from working or retiree income?
Modified adjusted gross income, what goes on your tax return. So that includes part of your Social Security, it includes capital gains and dividends, ordinary income, and tax exempt income. So if you've got tax-free municipal bonds, guess what? They're not all the way tax-free.
I didn't hear anything anywhere in there about retirement income.
Yeah, retirement income. So your pension is income.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with earned income. It's what's on your bottom line. And then they add back in the tax exempt income from tax exempt things like municipal bonds. So,
1099B income, right?
correct. Yep.
but it's true that, because you say that Medicare is an individual's benefit or whatever, so, but when you look at how much we're gonna pay per month, they're looking at both of our
Both of you.
incomes
Both of you.
to base on
Yep.
my entitlement, although my spouse is not entitled, so I'll continue to pay super high premiums until she quits working, and then what happens? It goes down to a normal.
Yeah, so there's 8 exceptions that we can file for immediately. One would be a work stoppage or a reduction in work, divorce, a death. Can't remember. Those are the most common ones that I deal with. So we help you file that paperwork. It's pretty simple, but we just provide your tax returns and pay stubs. If you retired, we'll send them your last pay stub and that kind of thing. But yeah, so we get that, right? So my in-laws, my mother-in-law just sold a property that she inherited from her dad. Her and her sister split that money. And now my father-in-law is paying $150 extra for Medicare. We weren't very happy about that. For 1 year, though. It's for 1 year. Or the remainder of that year, however it works out. Right? You're going into Medicare in December, and 2 years ago, your income was over the limit, but the year after that, it was okay. Well, you only pay IRMA for 1 month. So it works out. It's all on a calendar year.
So I'm in planning stages. So at 63, if we're eligible or able to do it, I should quit working and we shouldn't sell anything.
Anything large, like selling some real estate, cashing out a tax qualified account like a 401k or an IRA, those have to be thought through, right? Also, something that's very popular right now with financial advisors is doing Roth IRA conversions, converting a traditional IRA money over to a Roth IRA. You go ahead and pay the taxes on it, but then it's tax-free for forever after that, except that IRMA might want a little bit more. So we just have to do the math, see what the break-even point is, right? I would say probably greater than 85% of all the people that I work with do not pay that. It does not affect most people. But, I mean, it does, affects 15% of the people that I work with, and we have to deal with that. So, yeah, 2 years before you go into Medicare, you want to think through any large income events, taxable events. Just think it through. And I can help you do the math and figure it out. Yes, sir.
What happens if you own multiple properties? Is that considered an income? I mean, the property value is considered income?
Not the property value, but any cash flow, net cash flow from those properties is income, as you know. And it goes on your tax return. So it's your bottom line, that adjusted gross income plus tax exempt. Most people don't have the tax exempt stuff. It's just not very common. So you can bet whatever your AGI is the number. Okay. All right. Now, once you've got Medicare A and B, those are good questions. I mean, y'all are smart. Smarter than the groups I usually work with down at Golden Corral.
That's because it's military.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I believe you. I believe you. All right. And so far you've been nice. So keep that up. Appreciate it. All right. Now, once you get Medicare Part A and Part B, now you have two choices for how you obtain your coverage. Okay, it's two separate routes, the original Medicare route or the Medicare Advantage route. And once you make that choice, depending on a couple of different factors, you might not be able to go back. Okay, so now we're getting into the more of the decision making. We're going to figure out what your your specific situation. Listen, unless your neighbor or your golf buddy or your brother-in-law is an insurance agent that specializes in this stuff, don't be taking advice from them. Okay, just don't be taking advice from Facebook groups, and it's just deal with professionals that do this every day, because it can mess you up. Last thing you want to do is end up paying 30 or 40 or 50% or more penalty on Part B.
As we speak, our prescriptions come from Express Scripts. Will that change?
It will not, but I'll explain that. I'm going to get to all of it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's going to come down here under Part D. Okay, you got two routes. Okay, original Medicare or Medicare Advantage. All right. Now, generally, 4 types of health care that veterans get are VA health. Now, I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail about this, just don't have time. Okay, what I'm going to talk about is just generally how these all three work with Medicare. Okay, if you're on one of these three, you've already got a pretty good idea of how they work individually, right? But you get VA health, and based on how they rate these things, I think I put that page in your packet. You're assigned a priority level 1 through 8. Now they're adding letters in there, so you might be priority level 4B, right? Priority level 1 is the highest. That means you're 50% or more disability rating. Certain other things qualify you instantly for priority level 1. Okay, and then it goes down from there, from 1 to 8.
I
Right?
believe there's a caveat with that, right? Only the conditions where we are disabled are really free.
It depends on your priority level. It depends on your priority level.
Okay.
My experience, priority level 1 veterans, the VA kind of covers everything. But I do hear stories, and I've got clients that have experienced this. 100% disabled veteran gets prostate cancer, and the VA says, yeah, that's not ours.
The condition is not.
Yeah.
a
Now-
disability condition.
Right. They say, no, that's not service connected.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, how that fits in. Maybe it's just the doc that did I don't know. Because I hear other veterans say, no, they covered me just fine, no problems. But I always add these little warnings, okay? So, CHAMP VAs for spouses and dependents of veterans who were killed in a line of service or died later as a result of an injury or something that happened, or are, the way they put it, permanently and totally disabled. Okay, and that's for spouses, widows, widowers of, and children of permanently disabled veterans, or a veteran died as a result of their service. It doesn't have to necessarily be combat related. It's, you could have just drank too much water at Camp Lejeune and keeled over. All right. TRICARE, retired service members, and for what we deal with mostly is spouses, right? Okay, so those are the 3, and then the last one is, well, you just don't get anything. And all this still applies to you, just the Medicare part. We'll just take out all the VA, CHAMP VA, and TRICARE. All the rest of it still applies to you if you happen to, Uncle Sam said no.
Does it change the equation with Medicare if you're 2 of those, like if you're VA and TRICARE?
It does not. It just gives you more options. Yeah. So a lot of TRICARE beneficiaries are also 100% disabled, and they use both or one or the other. That does not change. Yeah. All right. So you're in service. You've probably seen something like this, right? Flowchart, decision tree. So our problem we're solving is we're turning 65, and the first question we need to ask is, are you still working? And do you have insurance from that employer, or your spouse does? Okay. If the answer to that question is yes, then I'm going to put you off on this side, and we're going to have another conversation, okay? Because we've got to compare your plans. Say, you use the VA, but you also retired from civil service, or some other company, Valero, and you've got good insurance from your company. That's a whole other set of issues we got to deal with. So I'm going to put you over here. But if you're working or not working, right? Then we say no to this, and we come down here. Which one of these categories do you fall in? TRICARE, you must have Medicare A and B. There's a lot of misinformation out there, even from insurance agents, that you have to have Medicare A and B. CHAMP VA, you have to have Medicare B. You have to have both, Medicare A and B. Okay? And then TRICARE and CHAMP VA work as a secondary insurance, secondary coverage to Medicare. That's why they require you to have Medicare A and B. That's why the premiums for TRICARE for Life go away. All right? VA health is not insurance. It's just it's a benefit that you get by virtue of your service. Okay? VA health has nothing to do, doesn't interact, doesn't affect Medicare at all. One doesn't talk to the other, one doesn't affect the other. VA doesn't care, although if you read their literature, they highly recommend that you enroll in Medicare A and B, but technically, you don't have to. I say enroll because I strongly encourage you to do that, and they do too, but you don't have to. Now, I may get ahead of myself here. Now, after you get that, A and B, with TRICARE, you can have a Medicare Advantage plan. We're going to talk about the difference between an Advantage plan and a supplement in a minute. You do not need a Medicare supplement. This is called a Medigap. Like you may have heard somebody talk about a Plan G or a Plan F or Plan N. You don't need one of those. It's duplicate coverage. They will not both pay, right? And same thing with Champ VA. You do not need a Medicare supplement, a Medigap, but you can have a Medicare Advantage plan. With VA Health, because the VA is totally separate over here doing their own thing, you can do what you want to with regard to Medicare. Make sense so far? Okay. We're going to get a little into it a little bit more as we go along.
So, wait a minute. So with Champ VA, I can barely see that because.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
So you can get Advantage, but you cannot get Medigap.
You can get it, but it's not going to do anything for you. And you're going to be paying for it.
Okay. With VA Health,
It says you can get
Just say
get
it
either.
over again.
You can get either.
Either.
Yes.
And with Champ,
Not a Medigap, not a Medicare supplement.
Not Medigap, but you can get
An Advantage plan.
Advantage.
Yeah.
And with TRICARE,
Advantage only, not Medigap. Now remember, I'm going to send you all these slides. So if you're struggling to keep up, taking notes or anything, just I'm going to send them to you tomorrow. Okay. All right. Now we'll talk about Medicare. Medicare only if you just have Medicare A and B and nothing else. Now I'm actually not talking about with TRICARE, with VA or Champ VA or supplement or Advantage plan, nothing. Just Medicare. And you go into the hospital for one day, let's change the slide here. For one day, up to 60 days, you will pay a $1,600 deductible. $1,600, that's the Medicare Part A deductible. You thought it was all on the house after you turned 65, you're wrong. Okay, $1,600, that comes out of your pocket for one day in the hospital. Now that $1,600 does pay for your first 60 days in the hospital, so I guess it's not a bad deal if you spend that much time, 60 days, $1,600, not too bad. Now, if you need to be in the hospital for more than, that's called the Part A deductible. Part A deductible, $1,600. I want you to be careful with that one, though. That's not an annual deductible. That is per eligibility period, and you can pay that several times per year. An eligibility period is 60 days. So if you go into the hospital on day one, you write that check for $1,600. And you stay in the hospital, say, for example, 10 days. Well, no problem. That $1,600 covered that 10 days. But you leave the hospital on day 10. The clock now starts ticking on your Medicare eligibility period of 60 days. So if you stay out of the hospital for 60 consecutive days and you go back in on that 61st day or after, guess what? You pay that $1,600 again. So that's not an annual deductible. That is per eligibility period, and you can pay that several times per year. Now, in reality, that's what the secondaries are for, and they're going to cover that for, except for VA. They're going to cover a lot of that for you, or all of it for you, but if you don't have anything, this is what you've got. Now, if you need to be in the hospital for more than 60 days, you fall down here, and for days 61 to 90, now you're going to pay $400 per day copay out of your pocket for every day that you're in the hospital. $400 per day out of your pocket. And then at day 90, your Medicare benefits technically end. But now you've got what's called your 60 lifetime reserve days. They're called lifetime reserve days because you only get them once in your lifetime, and once you use them, you don't get them back. Now, when you're in your 60 lifetime reserve days, now you're going to pay $800 per day out of your pocket for every day that you're in the hospital for day 91 to 150. And then once you get to day 151, you fall down here in the red. Medicare's out. They don't pay another penny. You are on your own. Until you leave the hospital, you stay out for 60 consecutive days, and it starts all over again. Okay. Now, if you find yourself down here, something pretty bad has happened. If you spend 5 months in the hospital at one time, something pretty catastrophic. We don't see a lot of folks down here. I don't want to scare you with it, but it does happen once in a while. Okay. Most people are going to be up here. Worst case scenario for a lot of folks is they'll pay that $1,600 2 or 3 times a year. Okay. But that's just the hospital bill. But what do we know about these things? We get home from the hospital, we get the hospital bill in the mail. What follows shortly after that? The doctor bills, right? you're going to get a bill from your surgeon, from the anesthesiologist, from the radiologist. Pretty much anybody that walked past your door while you were in the hospital long enough to whip their initials on your chart is likely to send you a bill. A lot of those bills are covered under Medicare Part B. Okay? Now, Medicare Part B is pretty cut and dry. Here's how it works. First of all, we said you pay $164.90 a month. Okay, that's your premium. After that, there's a $226 annual deductible. Once a year, $226. So one time a year, then that's it. After you've met your deductible, which for this year is $226, now it's just an 80-20 split right down the line. Medicare pays 80%, you pay 20%. But with no maximum. You know, the plans you're used to up until now have an out-of-pocket maximum, sometimes it's called a stop-loss amount, somewhere around $10,000 or $15,000 for most plans. With original Medicare, there is no limit to the amount of money that can come out of your pocket. Okay, if your bill is $3 million, you're just going to pay 20% of $3 million. Okay. But beyond that, it's pretty cut and dry. $165 a month, $226 a year, 20% after that. I don't have time to get in a whole lot of detail about it, but there's a handful of doctors, probably around 5% nationally, that are set up with Medicare in a way that allows them to bill an additional 15%. So instead of paying 20%, you pay a total of 35%. It's not a lot. And if you ask the question, do you accept Medicare assignment? Are you going to bill that excess charge, Part B excess charge? You can avoid them. But that's that. Most people are going to be right in here. All right. Now, can we agree that with Medicare alone and nothing else, you have a significant out-of-pocket risk? Is that a fair statement? Yeah. So what do we do to protect ourselves from that risk? Well, the first thing most of you did was serve your country. All right. So do you need Medicare Part A and B? A and B. TRICARE? Yes. Champ VA? Yes. VA? A, yes, because it's just automatic and you get it. B, I'm going to say probably. Now, technically, if you get everything done at the VA and you're happy with them and you don't see yourself ever going to a civilian doctor, you can take your chances not having Medicare Part B. But you will start accruing a penalty if you don't have creditable coverage from another source. An employer-sponsored plan from your own or your spouse's own current employment. Okay?
So if they, on their stand, if that VA health, if, say they have something happen at home and they have to get an ambulance service and they take them to the nearest hospital, they have to pay that cost. Because they're not going to say, oh, take me to the VA.
Usually not, yeah.
They're going to take you to the nearest hospital, so you would incur that cost.
That's right. Now, depending on your priority level with the VA might cover that bill, you know, but you don't know.
Yeah.
And, you know, it might be the kind of thing where it was a traffic accident. Well, the VA is not going to cover anything that might be insured by somebody else, like a car. Medicare doesn't either. If you're in a car wreck and they think somebody else's insurance ought to pay for it, they're not going to touch it. So even though you've got a card, you know, from the Mission Act that says, well, you know, we're going to cover everything. You can go to civilian doctor if you can't get an appointment over here. Man, it's the government. And they can, you know, depending on what the political climate is in Washington, Congress can change it. Policymakers can change it. Who knows? Somebody can make a mistake on the paperwork. I wouldn't take my chances. But technically you can. You just have to know you're going to start accruing that late enrollment penalty. The VA and Medicare do not work together. They're totally separate. And one doesn't affect the other. If you sign up for Medicare, you can keep using the VA. It does not affect it at all. Now, what happens if you have TRICARE for life and you don't sign up for Medicare Part B? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, but...
I said you'll get penalized later down the line if you do sign up.
That's right, and TRICARE is not going to pay any of your medical bills because TRICARE and Champ VA, for that matter, are a secondary, or in TRICARE's case, a payer of last resort. So they don't care who's in between as long as they're not first. They'll just come behind everybody else and sweep the floor. Okay? And Champ VA works pretty much the same way. So some minor differences with Champ VA that we'll talk about. All right. I've got to kind of move. What's time? Can I get a time check?
359.
3:59. Whew. Boy, y'all are keeping me going with these good questions. All right, so let's talk about Medicare supplements for a minute. Remember, 2/3 of you don't want this because you're going to pay for something that's not going to work. Okay, that's TRICARE and Champ VA. VA, this is one of the things you want to consider. Okay, and a Medicare supplement, that's on the original Medicare side, so it's a supplement to Medicare A and B. And what it does is it just pays your share of the Medicare bill. Now, for most of you who are going into Medicare after January 1 of 2020, you can no longer get a Plan F. So if you've heard about that or your friends have them, don't worry about it. Okay, you can't get it, and it's not a good deal anyway. Okay, Plan G or Plan N is the one you're going to want to look at. And for my money, still to this day, Plan G. So Plan G pays 100% of your share of the Medicare bill, except for that $226 annual deductible. After you've met that $226 annual deductible, Plan G pays everything else after that. So what's your copay at your doctor? At your specialist? That $226, that's usually your first office visit for the year, right? Especially if they're doing blood work. So you can walk in January, pay you $226, and what if your birthday's in December? You better wait till January because it's a calendar year and it's not prorated, right? So inpatient hospital stay, outpatient surgery, MRIs, CAT scans, tests, x-rays, emergency rooms, all zero out of pocket. Okay, so Medicare pays their share, your Plan G pays your share. We're comparing apples to apples. These plans are standardized by both the state and the federal governments so that a Plan G from Company 1 is identical in benefits to a Plan G Company 2, which is identical in benefits to Plan G for Company 3. The only difference is in the service, the price that you pay for it, because you'll pay additional, and the service that you get from the company. But in our case, that's us. That's me, that's Tarrell, that's Kristen in my office, our customer service agent. Right?
I know we've said if we have TRICARE, we don't have to have a Plan G, but is it the same old song? You gotta go find somebody that accepts TRICARE for life as the cleanup, and you gotta negotiate to find out?
That can still be the case, yes. Yep. Now, some docs, maybe Tarrell can speak to this later, but I think some docs are probably more willing to bill if you got TRICARE for life versus underage TRICARE because the payment schedule is different. TRICARE for life works just like a Plan F, actually. It just pays everything. And so the doctors know they're going to get paid. They don't have to send a lot of bills because Medicare does the billing. The doctor actually doesn't. Okay? And that's the nice thing about these. There's no doctor networks. You can go to any doctor you want to as long as they accept original Medicare. The doctors don't bill the insurance companies. They bill Medicare, and Medicare bills the insurance company. Okay?
Question, Ron.
Yes.
Any qualifications to get a supplement plan?
When you're
qualified to get a supplement?
as long as your check clears bank. When you're turning 65. So you've got this window of opportunity from 6 months before your birthday month to 6 months after your birthday month, and you get a Medicare supplement plan with no health questions asked. But if you want to get one of these things past your 65 and a half, you've got to answer some health questions and you can be declined. So it's very important that we make a wise decision on this. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I don't know. These are all made up. These aren't the real prices. The benefits are right, but remember, I just fed you some tacos and the law won't let me talk about it. But I can tell you, they're not far off. They're pretty close. And remember, it's apples to apples. So as long as it's a good A-rated company that's been in the business for a long time and we can see their track record with rate increases, because these rates do go up.
So you mean like company one could mean several different insurance companies?
Sure. Yeah, these are just examples. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't put real numbers up here and then mask the name. I've had this same slide. I haven't edited this in about 8 years, so. All right.
You said it was beneficial for us to have this Plan G when most of us have CHAMP, VA, and TRICARE?
No, I just said you don't want one of these.
Oh, okay.
This is for VA only, and somebody that doesn't have anything. Yeah. So make sure I didn't confuse anybody else. If you have, then I'm going to kind of skim past this, okay, and keep going. If you have TRICARE for life or CHAMP VA, you do not want this because you're going to pay this premium, and it's not going to work. Okay, and it is actually against the law for an agent to sell this to you, or unethical anyway, because it's duplicate coverage and it's just costing you money that you're never going to get back. Okay.
I just want to make sure I understood what you said. For instance, Medicare pays the first part. You have a supplement insurance behind that. You don't need the supplement insurance if you've got the VA.
No, if you've got the VA only, you don't have TRICARE or CHAMP VA.
You want the supplement.
You're going to want to consider a supplement, or Medicare Advantage, which we're going to talk about in a minute. In all likelihood, most of you are probably, if you decide to get any kind of secondary, going to get a Medicare Advantage plan. But I have to talk about this because it's an important option.
So just for clarification, if you got TRICARE or CHAMP VA, do not get a supplement. That's like Ron said.
Yeah.
Most of us won't need that. If you have VA only, you may want to get a supplement plan. But for everybody else, like outside of the military, like regular people, they are more inclined to get a supplement plan because they don't share the benefits that we have from getting something from TRICARE, CHAMP VA, or VA.
Right.
Ron's going over this because it's part of legal stuff that we do as being agents and brokers as far as the education piece.
Well, it's important, and so I get a comment, why are we going over all this basic stuff? Well, first of all, most of you are all turning 65, and so it's new to you. And second of all, if you're talking to agents, they're going to be showing you all this stuff, and you have to know like what applies to me. Yeah, I know that the gal you just signed up down the street that was a lawyer or something her whole career. Yeah, she probably got this, but I'm different because I served in the military. My wife served in the military, right? I've got these other benefits, but you need to know what this is so when you see it, you can identify it and go, nope, don't want that. That's it. If you don't want it with us, you sign up with your friend that's in the business or somebody knocks on your door or calls you on the phone. You have to be able to identify this stuff and say, okay, I'm interested in that, don't want that. You can just save your breath. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the VA has community care.
Uh-huh.
Community health care.
Community health care.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of?
No, the VA and Medicare are separate.
No, I was gonna say, is that part of CHAMP VA or not?
No, so CHAMP VA is different.
Okay, that's where I'm getting.
Right, I'm sorry. So CHAMP VA is different. CHAMP VA works a lot like TRICARE for life. And typically, I have heard some exceptions, but I've not seen it in writing anywhere. When you're on CHAMP VA and you turn 65 and go on Medicare, you can't go to the VA facility anymore. You have to go out into the civilian medical world. Okay. And TRICARE too, but TRICARE's got this other little thing called TRICARE Plus that's available locally. Some facilities, the leadership allow. I don't want to confuse you, but TRICARE and CHAMP VA, typically, you're kicked out. Okay, you can't go to BAMC, you can't go to the outpatient clinics, can't go to Wilford Hall. You got to go find a civilian doctor. That's why it's important to know what's going on here. Now that doesn't apply to the VA. You can still go to the VA. So if you've got TRICARE and VA and you use the VA or you use one or both of them, the VA Health, not CHAMP VA, is not affected at all. You can keep doing that. Okay? It's a lot, folks. It's a lot. That's why we're doing these special, because it can be terribly confusing. It's a lot of pieces. All right, so I'm going to skip over all this. Do you need a Medigap, TRICARE for life?
No.
CHAMP VA?
No.
VA Health? Maybe. We got to see which one's better for you. Original Medicare or Medicare Advantage, right? Which brings us to the next part. What about prescriptions? None of that I just covered covers covers prescription drugs. Prescription drugs are covered under a separate program called Medicare Part D, Delta. Medicare Part D, D4? Drugs. Well, y'all were doing good till that one. It's real easy to remember. Medicare Part D, D4? Okay. I'll let you go on that one. It's getting late. Now, Medicare Part D is optional. You don't have to get it, but like Medicare Part B, bravo, if you don't get Medicare Part D, drug coverage, and you don't have creditable coverage from another source, then you will accrue a penalty, and later on when you do sign up, because now you need it, now you're going to pay that penalty. Okay, and that penalty is pretty stiff. It's 1% for every month that you were out. It's 12% a year and didn't have coverage. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about this briefly. Okay. It works pretty closely to the coverage you're used to outside of military coverage, your civilian coverage. You might pay a small premium for your plan. It might have a deductible, annual deductible, which can be zero. Some plans have zero deductible up to $455 this year. After you've met your deductible, which might be zero, you just pay a little copay when you go to your pharmacy. A lot of your generic drugs are going to be zero copay. It's actually going to be free. But as you go up the tiers into the preferred brand, non-preferred brand, specialty drugs, well, they get pretty pricey. These aren't the real numbers. These are just examples. They can be real expensive. And we've got people on some drugs paying hundreds of dollars a month. Yeah, so we've got and every plan, there's about 16 of them, 18 of them this year in our area. Everyone's a little bit different. They've got each drug on a different formulary. Their copays are different. Deductibles are different. So what we do is we put all of your list of drugs into the Medicare website, and it's anonymous. We don't put your name in. But what that website does is it sorts all of these plans based on your total out-of-pocket cost for the whole year. What you're going to pay out of pocket. That includes your premiums, plus any deductibles that may be required, plus your copays when you go to the pharmacy. It adds it all up. And then we just pick the one that's going to cost you the least. Okay. Now we have to do that every year in the fall, October 15th to December 7th. Okay. And then once you've got it, once December 7th passes, you're stuck with whatever you've got for the whole next year. So it's very important that we do this every year. Now, do you need it? TRICARE for life, you get, not if you need it, but what do you get for TRICARE for life? Do you get drug coverage? You get prescriptions from TRICARE? Yep. So do you need Part D? No, because TRICARE and CHAMP VA and VA Health are considered creditable coverage for Part D Delta. So if you have one of these three and you choose not to get a Part D plan, there will be no penalty. You can get it later if you need it. Okay? But TRICARE for life, you get prescription coverage from TRICARE. CHAMP VA, you get prescription coverage from CHAMP VA. VA, it depends on your priority level, whether it's free or whether you pay a copay for it, whether they pay for some of your drugs, they deem service connected, they don't pay for other drugs. So VA, I don't know, how it's going to work out for you. Everybody's a little bit different. All right, so do you need Part D, TRICARE for life?
No.
CHAMP VA? No. VA? Maybe. We got to do the math.
Except for the gummies.
Except, yeah, they don't. Medicare not paying for gummies yet. Does the VA put? You know what? Don't ask, don't tell. All right. So VA Health, we're gonna if you have VA only, not one of these two, we're gonna look at your drug list and see what's better for you. Okay, because you don't have to have it. If you get your drugs from the VA, you don't have to have Part D. You don't have to pay for it, and there's no penalty. But some vets, get like all of their prescriptions from the VA except for this one they get down at HEB because it's cheaper or it's easier, or they got that prescription from a civilian doc and the VA doc wouldn't allow it. So we have a mix of the two.
I have a question. What if you need a prescription that is not in the TRICARE formulary and you have to source it definitely through a private supply or something like that? How that makes it to there?
We have to we have to work around that on an individual basis, a case-by-case basis. So having TRICARE or CHAMP VA and Part D can actually cause some friction. So we want to, again, think through that very carefully. You can have it. I'm saying you don't, like for 99.5% of the folks, you don't need it.
Be the last source of payment and all that.
With drugs, it's a little bit different, and it's hard to explain. If there's something that you can't get from TRICARE, it's not on the formulary, they don't want to pay for it, we have to look and see what's the cost and benefits, right? What's the trade-off? Yeah, but we can definitely help you figure that out.
You need to enroll on a Part D supplement because of that prescription. You don't have to worry about not being on a credible coverage before that.
Correct. That's right. Yeah. All right. So everybody good on this? Okay. Now a quick review. We've covered, that was just the original Medicare side of the chart. Okay. So we talked about Medicare A and B, talked about Medicare supplements and Part D coverage. We talked about how all three of these interact with TRICARE, VA Health, and CHAMP VA. Folks, this is the side that, and this is the side, original Medicare, by the way, this is the side that works with TRICARE and CHAMP VA. This is the side that gives you all the choices. You can go to any doctor, any hospital that you choose, as long as they accept original Medicare. It's the only requirement. That covers 96% of all doctors. And when you go, there's no out-of-pocket costs other than maybe that $226 deductible if you happen to have a Plan G. And there's no managed care. So what the doctor orders generally is what you get. You don't have to get referrals or pre-approvals or anything like that. This side equals freedom and predictability. You can go where you want and you know what it's going to cost you. Okay. Your other choice is Medicare Advantage. Now what happens here is you continue to pay the $165 a month for Medicare, but now Medicare sends that money over to, do we have a train now? Rain and a train?
It's been
Planes next.
I don't mind the planes.
Trains.
All right. All right. As long as I don't hear any explosions, I'm happy. All right. You continue to pay the $165 a month, but now Medicare sends that money over to this private insurance company that you choose, and they combine your coverage and administer your health care for you, but they take Medicare out of the picture. Okay. Now, I want to be very clear. You do not lose Medicare. You're still in the system. But what's happened is for that calendar year, you have told Medicare that you want this private insurance company to be your primary insurance, and they're going to contract you out to this insurance company. Okay? And there's a whole bunch of them. We work with all the major ones. Okay? And then they're your primary insurance coverage. Okay? This side equals budget and benefits. If we've got freedom and predictability over here, well, that comes with a cost sometimes, doesn't it? Budget and benefits are over here. Most people, especially civilians, can't have both. It's one or the other. A lot of you in this room fit into a category. We don't even have a name for it other than veterans. There's nobody else. I've been doing this 15 years. I can't think of anybody else that fits in this category. You can have both. Now, you can't have original Medicare and Advantage, but you can have freedom and predictability of original Medicare because you've got those secondary payers, those payers of last resort like TRICARE and CHAMP VA. That gives you your freedom and predictability, but you can also have the budget and benefits of a Medicare Advantage plan, right? So let's look at what those look like. Also called Medicare Part C. What's the first thing you notice about these plans? Well, we're no longer comparing apples to apples, are we? Now with the supplements, there's apples to apples. The benefits are identical. The only thing that's different is the price you pay for it. Here, everything can be a little bit different. Now they have a minimum standard. They have to pay at least what original Medicare would pay. Okay, so they're paying at least 20% for doctors, outpatient. Right? Your monthly premium, you might pay $0 monthly premium for your plan. Remember, you're still going to pay the $164.90. That doesn't go away, except in special circumstances. I'll tell you in a minute. HMOs tend to be 0 premium. PPOs, there's a few 0 premium PPOs around, but a lot of the PPOs cost a little bit more. But as you can see, it's not as much as a supplement. But where you will pay is when you go to the doctor. Now you've got little out of pockets, co-pays and deductibles and co-insurance, kind of like you're used to with your civilian insurance, right? Now, so you go to your doctor, pay copay there. Family doctors, a lot of times there's zero copay with some plans. Is that thing shaking or is that my eyes? It was shaking? I just got like vertigo or something. That was weird. I thought I was about to have a stroke. All right. Go to the hospital. You might have a little per day copay at the hospital. Depending on how long you stay in the hospital, it might not be too little. Outpatient surgery might cost you $100 or $225. Now remember, these are just examples. These are kind of just made up numbers, but they're pretty close, pretty representative of most of the plans out there. Now they do have doctor networks. This is where we've got to be real careful. Remember, TRICARE, Champ VA. I'm going to save VA for later. So right now I'm talking about TRICARE and Champ VA are secondary payers or payers of last resort. Okay, so in the case of TRICARE, they will pay your out-of-pocket for you. Now, here's the catch. The doctor has to be willing to bill TRICARE. Okay? It doesn't mean that TRICARE won't pay if the doctor doesn't bill. It's just that you might have to file the claim, and we'll do that for you. So if you go have an MRI and they want you to pay $150 copay, and that MRI clinic doesn't bill TRICARE, you pay your $150, bring me the receipt, we'll file a claim for you, TRICARE will reimburse you. Okay? There's another catch to that. TRICARE, not Champ VA, TRICARE will pay all of your out-of-pocket for in-network providers. Okay? Out-of-network, all these numbers go up, right? If you have an HMO, they don't cover anything out-of-network. If you have a PPO, they'll cover out-of-network doctors, you just pay more. TRICARE will pay the out-of-network cost too, but they might not pay all of it, right? So they have a schedule, they just pay what they pay. So if you go to one of these doctors, they're getting more common. They kind of cause me a headache once in a while, these concierge doctors. You know, they go and you pay them, I don't know, some of them are crazy. You pay like $4,000 a year just to be on the list, and then you still pay them something when you go. I don't know. Let's say you go and they're out of network, so they bill the insurance company, but your copay is not $20 because you're out of network at $75. You pay them the $75. We bill TRICARE. We file a claim with TRICARE, but TRICARE goes, yeah, we're only going to pay $50. All right, so listen, folks, that doesn't happen often, but I have to tell you, it's possible. Okay, Champ VA is different. Champ VA doesn't pay one penny out of network for nothing. It has to be in network. Out of network, Champ VA doesn't pay anything. You're on your own. Okay? So that's important to know. VA, they don't work together. You can have the VA and you can have your Advantage plan. You can use one or the other. You can't use both because they don't talk. Okay? So you can keep going to your PCP at the VA, get your prescriptions. You can use your Advantage plan to go to the urologist or get your free health club membership or your dental, vision, and hearing, all these extra benefits that these things provide. Keep going to the VA. Or keep going to the VA but have this other option. You want a second opinion. Your doctor at the VA moves on, gets another job, gets transferred. You don't like the new one. Guess what? You got another option. Okay? So unlike most civilians, you can have one or the other. You can have freedom and predictability or budget and benefits. Almost everybody in this room can actually have both.
If you don't enroll in the initial enrollment period on this, is there a health check before you can enroll?
No. So for Medicare Advantage plans, there's never any health underwriting. Forever until about 2 years ago, there was one question: do you have end-stage renal disease? They even did away with that. So as long as you have a valid enrollment period, you're in. Yep. Okay. So any questions on just how these work? I'm going to run real late here. I want to make sure everybody's getting the gist of everything. Yes?
Is there an advantage between the supplemental plan, between that and the advantage plan for widows, about 100% service connected?
Do you have Champ VA?
This is my sister.
Right.
She didn't know what to do. She didn't know.
Right.
Advantage plan, supplemental.
Right, so that's assume you don't have Champ VA or TRICARE or anything else, right? You're just a civilian like everybody else. We have to see what you need, right? Do you have a doctor? Some doctors don't take these. We have a very popular primary care doc in New Braunfels that doesn't take any of these. And so when his clients turn 65, he sends them to me because he knows I'm not going to try to sell them one of these, right? I'm gonna get them what they need to keep that doctor. Or maybe you travel, snowbirds, right? Come down here from Minnesota, spend the winters here. These don't work everywhere. If you don't have TRICARE, right? If you don't have that other coverage, right? So that's a question that you and I have to, or she and I, whoever, we talk through. For me and my practice, my company, there is no one size fits all. Every person is an individual.
So if one of these plans has a restriction for jurisdiction, for lack of better word, is it possible for someone to switch companies without any penalty?
Yeah, as long as you have a qualifying enrollment period, which if you moved out of the area, that would qualify you to switch. Sometimes these companies go away, they move out. Then the company might decide they don't like Bear County because people cost them too much. They might leave town. They might fold. You know, they might go bankrupt. And next year, your insurance is no good. You can change with no penalties, no health questions, nothing.
So if that condition is not met, then there is a penalty to switch. Case in point, my mother came to visit me late last year, and then she had a health issue. She has one of these plans, and when I took her to the hospital, they won't even give me the time of the day. So
yeah, I don't think that's a penalty. I think that's a problem with the network.
right, and that's my point. Her jurisdiction was that plan was applicable only to Puerto Rico. So when she came here,
yes.
so I shipped her back to Puerto Rico as quick as I could.
Yeah.
So she could,
So they all have an emergency provision. You know, if you have an emergency, they'll cover that. But if it's not considered an emergency, they might say, no, there's no doctors there.
but
Now,
she pay a penalty if she changed companies that would allow her to come and visit.
no. Well, I mean, so where they've got travel provisions, right? If she's going to be here for an extended period, but she's not permanent resident in San Antonio, her permanent resident still in Puerto Rico, they have provisions for that. We can usually find an excuse.
Okay.
Yeah, not always. It's not 100%, but we can usually find a way. Yeah, we certainly don't have to ship mom back to Puerto Rico. We can find her some insurance here. And nobody really says, there's no rules that says your permanent residence, you have to be there for 6 months. Right? She can move. You can say, I mean, listen, we do what we got to do. Yeah, mom's living here. Now, you can't say mom's living here and then 2 weeks later she moves back. You know, it's a gray area. We don't want to get out of the gray area into the being wrong, being unethical, because they can come back to you. But we can say, okay, mom's here. Let's get her some insurance that works here. Maybe that company will even let you change plans within the same company, the company that works here, the plan that works here. There's lots of ways that we can fix that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to scare you with some of these scenarios, but it is things that, through 15 years doing this, I've got some experience with a lot of these situations, almost all of them. All right. So now here's the difference. If you've been on, here's where I run into problems if I don't explain how it works well enough. Somebody's been on TRICARE for life for a while. Maybe you're 68 or 75, and you see a commercial. You see Joe Namath on TV, and he goes, well, get all this money back, get your dental, get your gym membership, and you call us up, and you say, hey, I want one of those plans. Saying, yeah, no problem, we can get you one of those. It's different, okay? Before, you had original Medicare. Medicare doesn't care what you do as long as you go to a Medicare doctor. TRICARE doesn't care because they just pay what's left. When you go from that world into this world, you have to live by the rules of the insurance company. As long as you're living by the rules of the insurance company, TRICARE, Champ VA is going to come back and sweep the floor, but you have to, stay in the network. You have to, get prior authorizations for things. You have to, get referrals if it's required. Okay, so it's a little bit different. And that's where agents, insurance agents, kind of get in trouble. They say, oh yeah, we can sign you up, get you your gym membership, and then all of a sudden you can't go to your doctor anymore. Well, we haven't done you a very good service there, have we? So we talk through everything. I want to know what drugs you take. I want to know who your doctors are. I want to know what your income is, right? All of this is to protect you from surprises. Okay. So they're managed care plans. We can change plans usually once a year. Again, you're kind of in a special category. If you get your prescription drugs from another source, right? The VA, TRICARE, Champ VA, you can pretty much get into one of these things year round. You don't live by the other rules everybody else. Okay, so do you need one? TRICARE for life, it's not required, but it could be helpful. And it could be helpful because, first of all, I want you to know, I just said it, going from original Medicare to Medicare Advantage with TRICARE for life or Champ VA is going to make it a little bit more restrictive. Okay, you're going to have to live by the rules of the insurance company. So why would you do that? It's a good question, right? Why would you go from that world into this world if you have TRICARE or Champ VA? It's because you want all the extras that come with Medicare Advantage plans. You want the gym membership, you want the dental, vision, and hearing, you want the over-the-counter allowances, you want the, they give you, one of them's got like $400 a year if you get your checkup, you get your mammogram, you get your prostate, you do all these things. They put money on a card for you. And some of them, not all of them, but some of them, especially some of the ones designed for veterans, rebate part of that Part B premium. So I've been talking about this $164.90. Some of these companies figure, and I can't get into too much detail. I don't want to violate what I'm supposed to do here. Right. Okay, so one of y'all is undercover or something. Probably that guy right there with the long hair. Undercover. Always tell law enforcement, sometimes first thing guy goes in undercover work, grow long hair, get an earring, get a tattoo, right? That's him right there sitting there with his arm folded. I'm kidding you. But you're not really, are you? No. Okay. All right. I forgot what I was saying. You're going from that world, freedom and predictability, into this more restrictive world that's still going to work good for you, but it's going to give you all the extras that other people have to pay for. Some of them, because they know just statistically that you're going to get a lot of your services from the government, from the VA. You're going to get your prescriptions from TRICARE. You're going to get your prescriptions from the VA. They actually take that benefit out of the plan, so the plan doesn't have drug coverage. That's a pretty expensive benefit for the company. Well, that's a lot of money that they can put back into extra benefits, and in some cases, some plans, they don't need the whole $164.90. They actually rebate it back to you. So that's why you see the commercials. They say, get $164.90 back. We don't have one around here that gives you it all back, but we have some that give quite a lot of it back. I don't want to say how much, but it's you'd be surprised.
Can we say more than half at times?
I would say more than half, probably. Yeah. Okay, so that's why you would get that. If you're not interested in that stuff, folks, let's don't worry about it. Let's just keep doing what you're doing. Okay? Now, VA only, right? Not TRICARE, not Champ VA. You would get it for the same reasons. If you're 100% disabled and you go to the VA for everything, all your doctors, all your prescriptions, everything, and you're paying for Medicare, what's it doing for you? That $164 a month is just burning a hole in your pocket. So keep doing the VA. Don't change any of that. Get one of these plans, get some of that money back, get some of those extra benefits, and more options outside of the VA if you need it or want it. And guess what? If you don't like it, if anything that I said is not true, we just undo it and put it all back the way it was. All right. So TRICARE, it's not required, but it can be valuable. With TRICARE, except in some like low percentage one-off situation, we want to go with a Part C plan that does not have prescription coverage. Okay? You can have an HMO, but I don't recommend it. Because HMOs, if you have to go to a doctor that's not on the HMO list, you're gonna be on your own, and TRICARE is not gonna. TRICARE is a secondary. They do not pay primary. So PPOs only with TRICARE for life. Okay. Champ VA, again, not required, can be valuable. RX coverage is not necessary. No HMOs at all. Champ VA will not pay anything out of pocket on an HMO or a PPO. So TRICARE will pay some of the out-of-network cost on a PPO. Champ VA doesn't pay for anything, so we just out-of-network. In-network they pay. Out-of-network they don't pay. So I don't want any HMOs for Champ VA. PPOs only, but we got to think through it. We got to make sure that all your doctors that you go to are in that network. Okay, follow me? And then lastly, VA Health. It's not required, but it is very valuable. You can get it with prescription coverage or without. You can keep getting your prescriptions from the VA. If there's one that you don't get or you don't like messing with that system, you can go down here to HEB or Walmart or wherever and get it on this coverage. And you can have an HMO or a PPO, doesn't really matter as long as it's right for you, as long as the situation fits. All right? All right, here we go. Any questions so far? Y'all had a lot of questions. Those are good questions. All right. So now what if you're still working? We kind of talked about this before. If you're still working and you have insurance from your employer, you've got more questions that you need answered. Number one, can I keep my insurance? Some jobs say, yeah, you can keep your insurance, nothing changes. Some jobs say, nope, you're out. Some jobs say, no, you're out, but we're going to give you some money to go buy your own insurance. AT&T retirees are pretty common that happens with. All right. Next question is, will I be required to have Medicare Part B? I want to be very clear. I don't want to confuse anybody. I'm talking about your employer coverage, right? Your civilian employer, and that would include civil service. Will you be required to have Medicare Part B? Here's a better way to answer that question. Who's going to be primary? Is your company insurance going to be the primary, remain the primary? Or is your company insurance going to revert to being the secondary and Medicare is going to be the primary? If that's the case, you do have to have Medicare Part B in most cases. And then next is, how much is it going to cost me? The premium can change. It can go up, it can go down, it can go away. Right? Case of TRICARE, premium goes away. Case of teachers in the Texas Teachers Retirement System, it changes, right? And the plan changes. And usually for the teacher, it comes down a little bit, but for the spouse, it goes way up, right? So every employer plan is different. Some of the more common ones I know. Some of the other ones, I got to look at the paperwork. So you bring me the paperwork, we'll put them side by side on paper in black and white. We'll do the math, and then you just pick the one that makes the most sense to you. Sound fair? All right. So again, that's right here. That's if we answered this question yes, we're going to compare plans. Now these might still come into play. So it all goes into, it's a big puzzle. Well, I've got to put the puzzle pieces together. All right. We're getting to the end. What are the benefits of working with us? Well, number one, and most importantly, we work for you. We're independent insurance brokers, which means we represent all of the major insurance companies that do business in Texas. You see some Humana stuff up here today. That's because Humana has some plans that are very specific to veterans. They do a really good job of focusing on veterans, and they give us some money to pay for it. Sometimes they sponsor the meals, so we want to kind of give them a shout out when we can. However, we don't owe anything to Humana or any other company. So when you come to see us, if you're a veteran, I'd say the chances we're looking at Humana are pretty high, but it's really a level playing field.
Only TFL is under Humana anyway. TRICARE for Life right now is under Humana.
Humana does some of the third-party administration on the billing, but I don't think there's a government agency. you send your bill to Wisconsin Physician Specialists or something. You know, it's not TRICARE. You know, that's a coincidence. Anyway, I just wanted to explain the Humana stuff around here. We work with Aetna and United Health. We work with all of them. But as far as veterans go, it does a pretty darn good job. But long story is, we work for you. Whatever's best for you, that's what we're going to do. The commissions on these things, it doesn't cost you anything. The insurance company pays us. The commissions are regulated by the federal government. Everybody pays the same. So Humana, Aetna, United Health, they all pay exactly the same because the government tells them what we're allowed to make. So it doesn't matter to me as long as it's right for you. Okay? So personalized service, when you come in to see us, you're going to get we're going to have a good long talk about your health and about a few other things, and then we're going to make a good suitable recommendation to you based on your specific needs. Right? We want to be your trusted advisor. I'm kind of going fast, folks, I know. Every year you're going to get a free review. Every year you have an opportunity to change plans. Some of you have multiple opportunities throughout the year. We're going to get together and see, because these plans change. The Advantage plans change. The prices on your Medicare supplement change. They go up. So we want to get together and make sure you've got the best coverage, the perfect coverage for you going forward for the next year. It's not just me. I own the company, Turning 65 Solutions, but I've got a team of experts around me. Tarrell's, you know, instrumental in helping me with the Veterans Division and his company, DD214 Financial, just doing things specific to people. So it's a team approach. Now, I'm the money guy. I'm the financial advisor. I help you with your, you know, IRAs and retirement accounts and that kind of stuff. But I've got, you know, my CPA does your taxes for a very special price for my clients only. My lawyer specializes in estate planning. He does your wills and trusts and powers of attorney, all for a very special price. Then we've got a couple other people around that do things. You know, it's a team effort. It's not just an individual. Every so often we hold a client appreciation event. We haven't done a lot of those lately because of, you know, the whole COVID thing. But I think that's kind of, I think everybody's not quite so nervous about that as they used to be. So I'm thinking about having a client appreciation event. I'm thinking about a movie night. Might rent out a theater and show a movie. About that Top Gun movie. Anybody seen that? Is that any good? Show. Anyway, just to get together where I get to say thank you. You know, no kind of sales pitch or anything like that. Just say thank you. Last but not least, you never pay 1 penny for our insurance services. We're paid by the insurance company that you pick. And they all pay me the same, so it doesn't matter. Okay? Some of the other things, you know, the taxes and the wills, you pay for those, but you get a good discount for being with me. There's separate professionals that do that. All right? Almost done. What about these guys? All right? Can you call these guys up and get insurance?
I don't mind.
Yeah? Can you do it? I like Dick up there. He looks like he's about to have an aneurysm.
You can.
All right. This is who you're talking to. You are not talking to Joe Namath. I don't have to tell you. You know you're not talking to Joe Namath. But this is who this is. These are 800 and 1,000 and 1,200 person call centers. This is very much like what these things are. Okay? You can see. Yeah. So that's who you're talking to. These are two of the biggest companies that do this. eHealth, SelectQuote. You may have heard of some of them on, you know, in the commercials. They have a business model called acquire and abandon. They acquire you as a customer, then they abandon you. You will never hear from them again. You will never get that agent on the phone again. And that business model is not sustainable. It's not viable, especially in our industry where people are used to and enjoy and want personal service, right? And so you can see, you know, this stock chart's just a few days old. Last year in 2022, these two companies lost a combined $386 million in losses because they had a lot of private equity came in and pumped a lot of money into them to go get Medicare customers. And then 2 years later, you're going, where's this agent? Joe Namath said I'd have service, and you're coming back to me, right? So you can see, don't take my word for it. I mean, Wall Street speaks for everybody. All right. So what's the next step? Everybody good? Anybody got any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just curious, I don't know if it pertains to this, but if you're still working and you turn 65,
Mm-hmm.
do you still get the Social Security deductics since you've already reached 65?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you still keep paying Social Security taxes. Even if you're drawing it, you're still working.
No,
You'll,
you're not drawing it.
Yeah.
You don't pay for Plan A because you've already put in.
now, you're saying Social Security, but I think what you mean is Medicare.
Well, what is the Plan A on Medicare?
Okay. That was,
You say there's no payment.
right.
So,
You keep paying the taxes, yes. It still comes out of your check. That's right. Yep. Yeah, it's really Medicare. When you look at your federal withholding tax and Social Security, Medicare is the smallest part of it, 1.6% for you, and same for your employer, double if you're self-employed. It's a small part of it, not small to some, to us, but as far as the government's concerned, you got to keep paying it. All right, so what's the next step? As you get closer to your 65th birthday, you're going to want to start planning, right? You're doing a good first step being here. Next step is to call Tarrell, schedule an appointment, email him, Tarrell@t65s.com. Folks, no later than 3 months before your birthday month. Medicare goes into effect on the first day of your birthday month, not on your birthday. If your birthday is on October 25th, Medicare starts on October the 1st. Now, if your birthday is on the 1st, it starts the first day of the month before. So if your birthday is October 1st, your Medicare starts on September 1st. Okay? It's the government. You want to give them as much time as they need to get this done. Right? That means get enrolled in time for them to get it all processed and mail you your card so that you have your card in your hand ready to go when your benefits go into effect. When we're talking about Medicare Part D, the drug plan, and Medicare Advantage plans, Part C, we have to have that Medicare number in order to get this done. Okay, so you've got to get started. If you want everything set up to start on time, no later than 3 months before your birthday. Now, if you think, I'm just going to get A and B and stick with TRICARE and I don't need any of this other stuff, that's fine. We can point you in that right direction too. We can help you get enrolled in Medicare. We don't mind spending time to do that because we're hoping we can do a good job on that and you tell your friends about us, right? There's some other things you need to do with TRICARE. You need to go get you a new ID card at the base. All right, your retired ID card is going to expire at the end of the month before your birthday. You got to get a new one, update DEERS, and you should be good. Okay?
Just in case you need a reminder of who Tarrell is, it's me.
Yeah.
I'm a regular dude, and if there's any appointments that we have to make, let's say you don't feel comfortable getting out, I don't mind coming in the house, have some coffee with you, talking the way people talk, the way it used to be, and just help you get stuff done. None of this stuff has to be hard. It can be complicated and confusing just because, well, prior to this, it shouldn't be complicated and confusing. But other than
I don't know
that,
if I helped that situation at all.
other than that, it's nothing besides just having a conversation with somebody who genuinely has your best interest in mind. Ron and I have been blessed and put in a situation where we're not hunting to sell anything. Our families are taken care of already. We just genuinely want to help the vets.
Yep.
It's all genuine.
Now, I'm the good-looking one. He's the smooth talker and the veteran. So he's going to be the one helping you guys in most cases with the Medicare part. If you wanted to call me about financial planning or retirement planning, something like that, then I definitely would love to hear from you and love to give you some advice there. That's all I have, folks. Boy, that was a long time. I usually do these in about an hour, but I don't know what it was. I appreciate your attention. Tarrell's going to come around and pick these forms up. Tarrell's going to come around and pick these forms up and give us a call if you have any questions. Thank you, folks. Really do appreciate it.